This week, Walmart was seen getting ready to open EV charging stations at their stores in the greater Phoenix area. It was announced VW owners will get access to the Tesla Supercharger network starting next week. And German CPO Jolt purchased the legacy Volta charging network from Shell Recharge, signaling their entrance into the North American market. Let's get into it. I'm here at a Tesla Supercharger station that was built earlier this year and opened in front of a Starbucks, which is of significance because between the partnership with Starbucks and Cracker Barrel, and I'm thinking what's happening is Starbucks is the local charging stations and Cracker Barrel is the road trip charging stations. Between those two, this past week, it reflects 20% of the Tesla Supercharger stations that were opened, according to the Alternative Fuels Data Center database. So I think that pattern is starting to emerge, similar to this station. We'll get into that in just a second. First, good news for folks who own VW EVs. The long-awaited entry into the Tesla Supercharger network is upon us, according to press release. The Electrify America Affinity Volkswagen crew is going to gain access to the Tesla Supercharger network on November 18th, which is next Tuesday. So welcome to the Cool Kids Club, gang. Tons of fun. And hopefully your charge port is on the right side in order to not take up two stalls, because in my personal opinion, that is more of a detriment than you might know. And also the whole concept of the adapter, and I guess I'm just spoiled. I mean, it used to be, can we make a trip in an EV, and now it's, well, I don't like to use the adapter and I have options and I'm going to go elsewhere. But regardless, oftentimes old dependable Tesla Supercharger fills in gaps that are otherwise unavailable for CCS charging trips. So congratulations guys for getting access starting next Tuesday. As I mentioned, Walmart did a post into social media. I caught it on LinkedIn with the pending opening of the Tempe, Arizona Walmart Supercenter charging station with Walmart Energy branded chargers. In this particular market, they're using the ABB A400s, 400 kilowatt capable chargers. They seem to have half of their locations with the ABB A400s, the other half with the Alpatronic HYC 400s. And I think the reason they're doing that is because when Walmart presses the go button, very few companies on the planet can actually sustain their needs. And so I think they're hedging their bets to ensure that once their project gets rolling, they're not held up by production limitations from one vendor. So they could pivot one way or the other if necessary. So in this particular market, it's ABB A400s, and besides the one in Tempe that was mentioned in social media posts, there's more than a dozen others spotted in various stages of progress. Some are under construction, some are just known through permitting, but the Phoenix area is definitely one of the areas that has been early on targeted, along with the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Next, I mentioned a few weeks ago about the Mercedes-Benz high-powered charging network hosting something called a charge giving. That took place this last week, and Steve, the YouTuber from Plug and Play EV, actually attended the event. Let's go to a conversation I had with Steve. I'm here with Steve Burkett, who we normally call to for NEVI framing of what's going on, because it seems to be on again, off again, on again, off again. And right now we seem to be in the lull before what would be very likely a ferocious storm coming on the horizon. I think everyone sees that coming. The scary thing is there's so many storms brewing on the horizon right now, where poor people like us who are trying to track this all is really becoming difficult. But Steve, much appreciated for coming on out of Spec Bits this evening.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me back. Divide and conquer. We'll get on top of these things.
Very well. Yeah, we need a community village here in order to raise this child. So the reason we have you on this evening is because you were able to attend a very interesting event. My personal opinion is as CPOs in this ever-increasing combative space. I don't want to call it combative, but it's definitely competitive space. They're trying to carve out a brand image is the impression that I get of what is actually going on. We see BP Pulse engaging with marketing companies in order to have their color palettes, and Iona with their color palettes, we all know is kind of like a futuristic retro feel or a modernistic retro feel to the Iona stations. And Mercedes has been trying to brand themselves as one of the premium solution providers for CPO services. And they also seem to be not token being sympathetic to the people who are using their stations, but actually sincerely trying to gather some information from them that they could use in order to adapt their products for improvements. And I don't know if that's a fair way of characterizing what I'm seeing them doing or not, but do you see something similar from Mercedes-Benz?
Yes, I think most of the newer networks that have been rising up over the last, 12 to 18 months have really started to talk a good game around the driver experience. And a good number of them are also trying to put that into practice on the ground, I think. So you're seeing launch events of new sites, driver interaction, QR codes to add survey feedback at Iona stations, that kind of thing. Mercedes-Benz high-power charging seems to be liking these opportunities to engage with drivers. It's not really just station openings. They've had these driver dialogues over the summer where they're specifically inviting EV drivers out to get a free charge, have a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate in my case at this one, and just kind of get a feel for what they like about the network, what could be improved, those kind of things. So this one was down in South Windsor, Connecticut. Wasn't a part of the driver dialogue series. Sounds like it was more of a.
Oh, I thought it was.
Yeah, well, maybe the same initiative. Maybe they're changing the name. This one was specifically called Charge Giving, just because of the time of year, and we're
Okay.
on the eve of Thanksgiving here. But they gave everybody a free charge, invited us down. I think you can see in back of me here the Ben and Jerry's truck. So they had some ice cream, hot chocolate, that kind of thing, and a little bit of a presentation and some kind of driver feedback stuff. So it was an interesting place to go, and they're definitely getting in there, trying to kind of really speak to the drivers and see what the likes, dislikes, and everything in between are.
Yeah, definitely see if you can't get the cheat code for the free dispense.
Yeah, it was specifically a rep tapping a card in this case. So it wasn't
Okay.
nothing you could fix on the back end, unfortunately.
Yeah, because we could definitely abuse the heck out of those Alpitronics. They spit out electrons at a ferocious rate. But so the event itself, you were able to attend, and I'm guessing there were. I know I've attended some Iona similar ones. I've never attended one that was hosted by Mercedes-Benz. The Iona one that I attended was the Out of Spec Cars and Coffee in Apex prior to its official ribbon cutting. They had Iona staff members there with clipboards, and they were actually looking for feedback during the real life charging. This was the first station that they had actually operational, so they were trying to dial in the technology and everything. This wasn't a burn-in event. What you went to was something different, which they were looking for the human aspect of what it's like to charge and what may or may not be beneficial. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right, that's correct. I've used this station a couple of times over the summer, so it's been open for 3 or 4 months now. It's a really nice, handily placed location, just a little bit east of Hartford on I-84, going through Connecticut. So it's a helpful spot. But the drive of this event was really clearly to get another one on the board in the Northeast, where they're starting to expand, as we'll come on to. There's more and more sites going on the board, both in my home state of Massachusetts, this one in Connecticut, and there's some more going up in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont as well. So this one you've got on the screen here is actually one just stumbled across on the way back in Holyoke, kind of in the central Pioneer Valley.
That's where we're at. We're stumbling across Alpitronic stations. Look over our shoulder. There's another one, right?
Yeah, good day when you come across a construction site full of Alpitronic
pretty much.
as an EV
Yes,
driver.
sir. And so the event you attended, out of curiosity, the station that was at the charge giving, is it 4 cables or 2 cables per dispenser?
This is pre NACS. I mean, some of the other sites that they'd already put out there are getting retrofits by the sound of it over in Texas and some of the other spaces. All of the ones in New England so far, except for one on Cape Cod, have had the all CCS one ports. So two, and then the dedicated couple of dispensers that actually have just one CCS port, so you can get the full 400 kilowatts if you're in a vehicle that can go up to somewhere near that.
Yeah, kind of one station that's isolated for a single cable use. And then I've also been seeing some of their stations are quad cable, where each stall is dual cabled, NACS and CCS1. So you don't have to use adapter. And I guess that's one of the things they're trying to ferret out, whether or not it makes sense to actually spend the extra money for the quad cable approach, or if it's sufficient to have excessive number of stalls with varying connector types in the different stalls, a la Iona and BP Pulse. But the station that you actually went to was one cable per stall. Is that correct?
So they had, I think there's three that they have, three dispensers that are dual CCS, so two vehicles can simultaneously charge, so that's serving two spaces each, and then the two at the end are dedicated single port CCS
Oh,
for
single. Oh,
yeah.
two
So
at
you've
the
got
end.
two
Okay, so they
stalls
did
that
two
are
at the end with
effectively,
single cable. Okay,
yeah, for sure.
and yeah, so some of the Mercedes are able to suck down that much juice. So I guess it makes sense for a Mercedes station to kind of cater to some of their top level customers, because there's not many places where that can actually happen. But the team at Mercedes-Benz High Powered Charging, based in Atlanta, Sandy Springs location, had to make the trip out there. That's a pretty significant event in and of itself. If they hopped on airplanes out of Hartfield and flew all the way in to the station here in order to hold the event, that in and of itself says a certain amount of deliberation and effort that they're putting into these types of events, and also the customer feedback coming in from PlugShare, they're obviously looking at as well in trying to improve. So it seems like gone are the days where CPOs put chargers in the ground and walk away from them and just try to see if they make money or not, and take the grant money that they were given for putting the charging in, and then move about their business. And we're now in the stage where it actually has to be calibrated as a business venture in order to make money. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more taken care of by these CPOs.
Yeah, I think the as well as how holding these events, you see posts from some of the team. I think some of them are based in in your kind of area, but some of them are up in New York City. One of the ladies that was there, Sharon Baker, the VP of site acquisition, she was down in Virginia. So there's quite an East Coast covering for the team, and I know some of them are starting to drive up and down the coast. I've seen posts from some of the team down in Florida and then coming up the coast, trying out their various stations. So they're really, this is EV drivers trying to understand EV drivers and figuring out what's working at the stations and what isn't. So there's definitely a commitment to get out there on the ground and, see what's actually happening in the field, as well as looking at the app and hoping that everything works properly.
Yeah, so the charge giving event, I would have to call a success. I mean, I was only looking at it from a distance, but I, again, am feeling the sympathetic ear from Mercedes-Benz high-powered charging, and definitely the premium experience is something that they're gearing towards. And you mentioned the Upper East Coast, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a significant number of stations coming in. You kind of rattled through them very quickly at the beginning, but you mentioned this one that you stumbled across. And tell me again where this one is.
This is up in the Pioneer Valley in Holyoke. It's just a little bit north of
Okay.
Springfield in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have, we've got quite a few in Massachusetts now. It's a rare privilege for us because we don't usually get the first dibs on many of
Yeah,
these.
once you get in the Upper East Coast, it kind of is flyover country for CPOs, but you guys are getting quite a bit of love from Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, so they have, I think it's 3 stations now open and activated. Then one that's about to come online just south of Boston, and I believe this is going to be the 5th if this finishes this year.
Dang.
So it's not bad for Massachusetts. We don't typically get the full works. So, and then up in further in New England, I mean, again, this is kind of, it's a little bit more remote up in some of these areas, but there's a site going in that I kind of again just stumbled across in PlugShare, called up at St. Johnsbury in Vermont, where even Electrify America has no presence. So there's they're pretty far up there on the route to Canada, couple over in Maine. So you're really starting to fill in these northeastern corridors, which isn't necessarily that common.
Well, what a change in fortune, where we were relegated to the back end of a strip mall near the dumpsters, and now we're being catered to with Ben and Jerry's and warm cocoa, while the executive staff comes and listens to every suggestion that we have. much different EV experience now that we're.
Yeah, I mean, people will still point out, there's no canopy at this site, so we're going to be going into snow mode here pretty soon. So that's going to be one thing. What else can I say to kind of make sure we're not sounding too fanboyish here? Some of the squeegees and the regular things that we would see at a gas station or a truck stop aren't present. So there's things that can be added. Pull through is obviously a big one, although on some of these sites it's more retail focused and kind of, I don't know how many Mercedes vehicles are necessarily going to be towing. So maybe that's forgivable, but these are the kind of things that we're starting to get into right now. It's not the will it work and there's only 1 or 2 stalls. There's a lot of
right,
very reliable hardware. There's really nice amenities. It's just these last few things that we're trying to hope they
am I at an upscale mall with a adjacent Starbucks, or am I underneath a canopy at a gas station? Those are the choices that we're being presented with.
Mercedes experience.
Well, Steve, much appreciated for coming and sharing on your experience here at Out of Spec Bits, and I'm sure we'll be touching again sometime soon.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Walter.
What a refreshing change to being the owner of an electric vehicle, where the charging companies are catering to my needs and responsive to my input. So very encouraging to see. Thanks, Steve, for sharing your thoughts there. Last week, the Tesla Supercharger team added no entries into the alternative fuels data center database. They definitely made up for it this week with 33 new stations with a total of 438 stalls. They had the opening date listed as November 7th on every single station, so it looked as though the person who was updating the file on the alternative fuels data center database was out of town, or at the dentist or whatever, and so they compiled them all into one file and then sent it over somewhere around November 7th. This includes 3 at Starbucks, which is a favorite partnership of theirs of late, as you can see behind me. This one here in my hometown is very popular, and there's also a partnership with Cracker Barrel, and there's 3 this week added at Cracker Barrels, including St. Augustine, Florida, and Orangeburg, South Carolina. Cracker Barrel, as I mentioned, makes a great partner for road trip interstate stations. Plus, their hours of operation are pretty wide with their breakfasts and also staying open late for dinners. In my hometown, the Tesla Supercharger station opened this one here at the Starbucks earlier this year, and it quickly became a favorite of locals. And currently there's another one just a little bit about a mile down the road at a Cracker Barrel, which I filmed at, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So we've got example of both the Starbucks and Cracker Barrel partnerships occurring here in my hometown. And of the 33 entries into the Alternative Fuels Data Center database this past week, 20% are represented by these 2 partnerships. So I think this pattern of Starbucks for locals, for local stations, and Cracker Barrel for road trip stations off interstates is very likely going to emerge and continue. Next, Shell Recharge bought mall-located Volta charging stations and converted their back-end payments to their systems the first part of this year. They later announced that they were going to shut it down, and it looked like all those assets were going to be stranded, abandoned assets. But we learned this week that German CPO Jolt will be buying the former Volta assets from Shell Recharge. I'm thinking since it was going to be shut down anyway, likely Jolt got a really good deal, because Shell Recharge was likely looking at decommissioning costs and decided to just sell it instead and not have to deal with all those costs. Is probably good for both parties, Jolt and Shell Recharge. And Jolt now has a foothold in the North America market, which they didn't previously. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what Jolt does with the ownership of the former Volta stations through 2026. We'll definitely keep an eye on that. Next, EVgo posted more charging stations that had NACS conversions on them. And it looks like what they're doing is at their station, they're picking one of the dispensers and replacing the cables with NACS and having leaving the other dispensers as CCS. So they're having not a full station of NACS, they're having it mixed. And let me just go over these really quick. Portland, Oregon, Landera Ranch, California, Glassboro, New Jersey, Hanover Park, Illinois, and East Sumner, Washington. All got NACS retrofits off EVgo stations this past week, according to a post into social by EVgo. Finally, there are 2 viewer-submitted videos we're about to roll here. The first one, and let me see if I can get the pronunciation right. He gave me some phonetics here. It is Dactyl Ionen, I believe is how it's pronounced, or Eric, of the Joe Biden Welcome Center with the Apple Green Alpitronics. And next, as I mentioned last week, Tesla Supercharger opened a signature station at the ever-popular Kenley 95 truck stop. YouTuber Explore with Carlos went there and sent us this video as well.
All right, Biden Welcome Center. We've got 6 total chargers. 3, 4, 5, 6. Each one has dual NACS and dual CCS. Incredible work. Can't believe how clean and open it is, which is also nice because I've been to this rest stop multiple times. Might be a little bit of an issue with traffic flow given that the rest area is right here. And these are almost primo spots, actually.
Hey Walter, we are at Kenley 95, giant building over here with lots of different stores, restaurants, a lot of things to look at, especially for truckers. But here's the new chargers here for Tesla. Very nice under a canopy. And actually, they're solar, so that's actually really cool. I believe these are solar. They look wired, so I believe this is a solar station. And there are just so many places to park and charge. So you have 2 accessible ones here, 2 trash cans as well over there, and just so many different chargers. Like, you can literally drive through a lot of these, so definitely a lot of cool areas. In fact, I think it says priority for trailers, please use last. So this is a sign that they have installed here. I'm guessing this is what controls this whole place. Looks really cool. CPS. I'm not sure if any of this information is useful for you. It's actually really small. Looks like very new and modern. Let me zoom in for you if there's any information on here that you might want to have. But yeah, this place really, really cool. Be posting a video on my channel next weekend. Oh, and then the other thing is they have stickers. So each one of them have stickers to tell you which side to charge from. And they also have QR codes in case you're not familiar with Tesla at all, and they'll give you instructions. So yeah, that's it from here. Across the other street, there is a Pilot Flying J's, which is completely separate from this building. It's a whole different building, and I believe they have normal EVgo chargers on that side.
Thanks for watching.